Got what I could get.
Well, if y'all want to, we're gonna go ahead and get started, if that's okay, and,
Are we on day 3?
yeah, day 3, for it might get 5. But, let's pray first. I wrote down some of her prayers through this chapter 2, so I'm gonna pray this. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for being the perfect example of a loving Father who corrects and guides us with Christ-likeness. Thank you for these proverbs, and please give us wisdom to follow your examples so we can experience heart transformation and daily spiritual growth in our distraction. Okay, so this is the second part. Oh, wait, gotta go through all the slides. Sorry. The second part of this was loving correction and hospitality and the recap. So, sorry, I thought I had this in the right spot, but I did not. But she opens with saying that it's impossible for us to consider wisdom in the home without addressing guidance and, here we go, guidance and correction. And she says wisdom helps us approach correction in 2 key ways. And she talked about accountability and discipline. And she says that both are to be approached not with harshness or fear, but with a sense of compassion that promotes guidance, growth, healing, and connection. And so I thought that was really a good point to bring up, because I think that's good for us to ask ourselves, that when we are, offering guidance, discipline, or accountability to our children, our spouse, a friend, whoever it may be, we need to approach it in a way that we ask ourselves, like, am I promoting growth? Am I promoting healing? Am I promoting connection? Because that's, I feel like Jesus was the absolute best at that. All this in situations he encountered, he could have approached and answered and responded in lots of different ways, but he always shows compassion. So, which led people to want to do all these things, grow and heal and connect. And so I really love the image on this slide. And when you look at that, sure not her head off, but what thoughts come to your mind when you see that?
Hey, it's crying.
Yeah. Girls obviously.
She's probably done something wrong.
Yeah.
The older self and the younger.
Yeah.
And she's
Yeah, I
showing
looked at her
concern.
again, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we don't know the backstory, but I think I was like, even if no words were spoken, just like the way she's like embracing her and like her body language, it just says like, I'm here for you. I'll love you through this. We'll get through it together. And I just thought that was very comforting, a comforting image for us to model. But she says that on page 113, she says that one of the best ways we can love one another is through spiritual accountability, which looks like confession and acknowledging our mistakes. And the following proverbs that we're going to look at are going to emphasize those points. But I didn't know if anyone wanted to share, but like your experience with a friend's experience. We usually always have accountability partners with like reaching our diet or weight goals or exercise goals. But, it's so important to have accountability also like in your spiritual life with, struggles. If like, listen, I'm really struggling in this area, I want you to walk with me through accountability in this. Because there's also obviously some vulnerability with that, because you're having to confess something that you have, struggled with or have. Did anyone want to share or have any ideas or thoughts on that? If not, it's okay. We can read some Proverbs that talk about that too. If someone wants to read Proverbs 12:15, and then this is the exercise where she wants to do the explicit, implicit. So the explicit's pretty easy, but we're going to talk about the implicit. So if someone wants to read this one.
Fools think their own way is right. Wise listen to others.
Okay, and what's implied here?
It's better to listen.
Yeah. I also saw like fools, they don't even like think that their way could possibly be wrong. It says the wise, some other versions say that they seek counsel. And there's a contrast. The wise think like, maybe I am wrong and I need to be open to change and viewing this in a different way, where it says they don't even consider that they could be. The next one says Proverbs 15:31. If someone wants to read that.
If you listen to constructive criticism, you will be at home among the wise.
Okay, and what's implied here?
Home?
You're not willing to listen to constructive criticism. You're not gonna like be with wise people, or you're probably gonna be more apt to be around foolish people.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. It kind of, to me, implies that, like, if you're among the wise, all the wise have endured constructive criticism. So in order to sit among the wise, we have to endure that as well. Proverbs 28:13. Let's read that.
See other sins will not prosper.
Okay. What's that verse in?
Hiding your sins will work against you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll put confession is healing and refuge. And then Proverbs Proverbs 27:17. I know they've pointed this one out a lot this semester, but it's just such a good. Does someone want to read that one?
As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend.
Yes. And I added this picture to illustrate like how sharp iron can actually get. Like when I see that, I see puncture wounds. Does anyone else just think like puncture wound?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just to emphasize the point, like sharpening is different from cutting, and so I just feel like it's important for us that who we're seeking to sharpen us, like make sure they have our own our best interest at heart, and are also speaking truth into us, because some people can, actually do more harm than good. But on the flip side of that, we also just need to be mindful that if we're that friend that's trying to sharpen someone else, we need to make sure, that we ask ourselves, like, am I sharpening this person or am I cutting them? Because, sometimes you can say things that can actually be more harmful. So, on the bottom of page 114, she says, I like this quote. She says, as we daily accept God's gifts of forgiveness, mercy, and grace, our relationships can move from flexing our authority to being founded on humility. And if anyone are book readers, I've got 2 book recommendations here that I'm going to talk about. But Give Him Grace, Dazzling Your Kids with the Love of Jesus is really good, and it talks a lot about this. But this quote, I believe she was probably going at it more of a parenting relationship, but that could be applied to any relationships too. So I liked that. And then the discipline that she talks about, oftentimes when we hear the word discipline, I know my first thought is usually like punishment, but she says that actually means instruction, correction, or training that corrects, molds, or perfects the mental faculties of moral character. So when you put it that way, that's like, oh, I'm open to all those things. Like that's, sign me up for that. So I think that's good to remember too. Does other people, do y'all view discipline as that way, or it's like a negative thing?
It used to mean spanking to me.
Yeah.
But, when you grow up, you mature, you realize it's the same root word as disciple.
Yeah.
And so that really helped me to realize, oh, okay, it's the same word. I get it now. It's a teaching. It's a, all of those things there.
Yeah. Maybe we just need to be better parents at rephrasing it. She said that this was some of the best advice that her mother gave her. And again, that's all about what that book that I shared with y'all says too. But she said, discipline isn't about behavior modification, it's about heart transformation. Did anyone else read that or highlight that in their book? I love that. One of my most recent examples of this, my little nephew, he is almost 6. He loves to win. He's very competitive. And he wants to win so bad that he will cheat to do it. And so I just had to talk with him one day, because I was like, listen, I'm just like you. I'm competitive. I love to win. I was like, I don't like to lose either. But if you want to win so badly where you're going to, cheat or steal or lie, I said, no one's going to want to play with you. And so I was like, I don't care if you win. I don't care if you ever win another ball game in your life, but I do care about your character. And so I don't know if he'll ever remember that conversation, but he looked at me right in my eyes like he understood every word. So we'll see. But these next Proverbs are going to teach us more about what the scriptures say regarding discipline. So Proverbs 3:11 through 12. If someone wants to read that.
Son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, as a father the son delights.
Hebrews 12:3 through 11. I picked out 2 of the verses that I like the most from that emphasize this point. But she said, the Bible says, if God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you are illegitimate and not really his children at all. No discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It's painful. But afterward, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who train this. So on question 18, she says to summarize the purpose of God's discipline. Anyone write down the answer for that one?
Just that God disciplines us because of His discipline.
Yeah,
Make us more.
yeah. Verse 10, I didn't include it on here, but it says, so that we might share in His holiness. It also says this is good for us, leads to a more peaceful life down the road, and also it proves His love for us. Question 19, she says, why do you think Solomon encouraged his son not to loathe discipline?
That's mine, it too.
Oh,
I just put prayer.
Hey, prayer's always the answer.
Maybe because he just wanted him to be true and loved him. It wasn't to punish, it was
Mhm.
to correct.
Yeah. So he could grow and improve and learn and the follow-up question to that, she said, why do you think that it is more often than not our response to correction? Why do we tend to loathe being corrected?
So we're usually following our flesh, when we need correction.
Mhm.
Usually, we're not going the right way
Yeah.
in some way, and usually that's a thing of the flesh in some way, and it's not pleasant. And honestly, nobody wants to feel wrong, too. And so all of that is uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I don't want to be wrong. I want to do
Yeah.
right. If I realize have that correction, it's just not easy. I think we're be a little bit arrogant about some of those things.
Yeah. It's also just embarrassing to be called out on something, especially like if usually you kind of know you're doing it the wrong way, but for other people to also see that too, I think it's a little bit embarrassing, and I just don't like to be told we're wrong. These were two more, sorry, it's a bit off center, but if the discipline want to read both or one of those.
To learn, you must love discipline. It's stupid to hate correction. And only a fool despises a parent's discipline. Whoever learns from correction.
And she says that just as God corrects and disciplines us out of His deep love, so we are called to extend that same care to those who are in relationship. And I like how she also words it, we're looking for a better way. And I think I just really like the way she worded that. This goes back to that responding, not react. She also says, on question number 20, it says, what is the lesson for you as you guide those closest to you through accountability and work discipline? Did anyone write one down for that? An answer? The lesson for you as you guide those closest to you. Yeah. This goes back to that connecting before you correct. And discipline, it's best for everyone down the road. It's best for the child, it's best for your friendships, it's best for your marriage, it's best for you. So, yeah. There are also many proverbs listed on page 117 that are warnings to parents just as much as they are to children. Like one, I didn't put it on here, but it says Proverbs 10:1. It says, a wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. And Proverbs 29:17 says, discipline your children and they will give you peace of mind and will make your heart glad. And then probably the most well-known verses related to this topic was Proverbs 22:6. It says, direct your children on the right path, and when they are old, they will not leave. And we know this is not a fortune cookie, but it is good wisdom. And I feel like even if you have children who have, wandered off, left the faith or whatever, if you ask those parents, they probably wouldn't say, oh, I would go back and not teach my child the way of, path leads to life. I don't think anyone would ever say that. It's just important to plant those seeds. at a very early age. So John 14:23, if someone wants to read that.
Anyone who loves me will obey my teaching.
And this one, she pointed out that Jesus taught that a loving connection comes first, and that our normal response out of love would be obedience. So that obedience was the proper response to love and support. So I think here she was saying that like correction and love go hand in hand. And she says if you have that close and loving relationship, then our loved ones will know that our correction comes from a place of trust and safety. Does anyone have any examples or wisdom for how maybe you've addressed a tough situation with a child or friend related to those? Okay. Well, the next part, day 4, she talks about hospitality, and I've got a bunch of her quotes on here because they're good. But this one was, when we establish our homes in the way of wisdom, they become places where others are always welcome and where the love of God is on display. So I think it's important for us to remember just like everything we have belongs to the Lord and that we're called to invest it and steward it wisely. So how do you think we could best live that mindset? Does anyone, if you've lived life as like this, my home belongs to the Lord, my money belongs to the Lord, vehicle, clothes, how would does that mindset, no it does, but how do you think that would change?
It lends itself to generosity.
Yeah.
Realize it doesn't belong to you anyway, you know, and it's less likely to try to hoard it, hold on to it, not share it, share your home, gifts or whatever it may be.
That's so true. We're going to look at some Proverbs related to hospitality. So if someone wants to read Proverbs 18:1, there are a couple of different verses what Bible do you have? What does yours say?
It says an unfriendly man pursues selfish ends, piles himself.
Okay. Does someone have a verse that talks about isolation? Someone, the CSB that she was reading, her verse read a little bit different. What was it?
One who isolates himself pursues selfish desires, he rebels against all now.
Okay. So that more so related to her verse is how it reads. On question 22, she says to reflect on a time when you or a family member isolated yourself. What was the cost of this isolation?
Not seeing or talking to each other for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And the cost of that contact.
Well, it was a family member, and they didn't want to be around us when we were present at family get-together.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going if we were there, and it was very stressful time.
Did anyone reach out to that person, or?
Yeah, finally. Well, it was someone unexplained, not wanting to talk to me, but finally I had an aunt that reached out. She knew us, and she kind of turned the situation around and he came and apologized. And,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's a great story.
said he hated to, that he'd been that way. And it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
And, asked us to go to church with them, you know. But, I mean, we went to a different,
yeah,
you know, it turned out good in the long run,
yeah,
but, I think a lot of it had to do with health.
Mhm.
You know, you get to the end of life, or what you think may be the end of life, and, you know, to make amends with people that you feel like you've wronged.
Mhm.
You know,
yeah. Yeah, I think also just like someone who's grieving, um, they are very isolated. I feel like there's some who don't need to be isolated at all. But you know, we're built for community, and also just going back to that, we need to be in community to have those mirrors to speak truth into us, to be discipline and accountability. You know, I think it's just so important the way the Lord designed it that we do life together, not isolate ourselves. So here's another one that says Proverbs 11:25 about hospitality. What you
Generous will prosper, and those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed.
yes. So basically, being generous will bless us along with other people, and I'm sure we've all had some experience with that one. On page 119, she says, generosity and selflessness are at the heart of Christian community, which means they should be at the heart of our homes as well. And she says, when we share our lives, we can shape the culture around us, conveying hope, offering encouragement, and engaging in meaningful, redemptive conversations that reflect the truth of God's heart. And some of the things that she said about hospitality, she says, the quality or disposition of receiving and treating guests and strangers in a warm, friendly, and generous way. And she also points out that it's a sacred duty that everyone is expected to observe. So she says it's seen as a gift of peace and goodwill. And I also thought that it was an interesting thought where she said the importance of sharing a meal, because it's like symbolizing like what's in you is also in me. So that kind of stood out to me as well. And my book for hospitality that I've been reading, which is also really good, I haven't finished it, but The Gospel Comes with a Housekeeper. Well, it's really good so far. I haven't finished it, but I have both of those as book recommendations if we have any bookworms in there. So these are some verses talking about hospitality. So 1 Peter 4:8-9, if someone wants to read that. And we've got 3 on here.
Above all, maintain constant love one another, since love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without.
Okay, then Romans 12:13.
Share,
And
share the Lord's glory and practice hospitality.
okay, and then whoever's up here Titus 1:8.
Rather, you must be hospitable, one who loves what is good, who is self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined.
Okay. And a question that she had was, why does hospitality matter to God? I think this is on page 1 of the book.
Wants us to love like he loved.
Yeah,
Love every-
yeah. When we respond to the needs of others, they want us to serve, just like Jesus did. And I liked how she also said that hospitality creates a culture of being others-centered. And this is so true because, you know, if you had people in your house, you know, you're always asking, do you have enough blankets? Do you have any food preferences? You know, do you have everything you need? Is there plenty of toilet paper up there? You know, whatever it is, you're always asking about them and what they need. And so she said, by making room for people, we show kindness, lead with service, feel community, and live out God's command to love our neighbors, ultimately reflecting his goodness and grace. And she says that it provides a space for us to learn and share what God has done in our lives. So question number 24, she says, how can practicing hospitality impact your relationships, and what does it communicate to those you invite into? or if you've been the receiver of hospitality, you could talk on that, how it made you feel.
Brings your relationship closer, shows that you care and that you're here for each other.
Yeah.
It's that community,
Mhm.
it's like not this myself, somebody else that
Yeah,
is deep relationship,
yeah.
know people.
Very good. Proverbs 25, 21 through 22. Someone wants to read that.
Your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. He's thirsty, give him water to drink. Doing this, you hold his head.
So what she says on question 25, what additional insight do these verses add to the picture of hospitality?
Even to those you don't like, they don't like you.
Yeah, even those that you don't want in your house.
Even those, yeah,
She says enemies can also be people that just see the world differently than
Right,
you do.
right. Showing them it's unexpected the way you treat them, not what.
Yeah. You will heap burning coals of shame on their heads. I like the way that says. But I do feel like that's just such a hallmark difference in Christianity compared to any other religion. And, you know, because there's other religions like hate those who hate you, you know, and that's so different from what Jesus taught.
Yeah, something about that. The, maybe somebody else will remember this. You know, it sounds like, oh, just like, you know, burning them up, kindness or whatever.
Yeah, kill 'em with kindness.
Yeah, yeah.
But always hurt from.
But wherever this was, it was like when your neighbor's fire was about to go out. They would go to their neighbors, to you, to your house, and they would ask for some of the burning coals so they could go back and, you know, revive their fire. So it was really more like by doing good to your enemies, it's just like if they came to you in dire need and you did something.
Oh, cool, okay. She says that we need to begin as humble learners, have a posture of openness and curiosity, asking, tell me more, help me understand. And she said this can go, you know, even just within your household, having these conversations. But I do like how she said, instead of putting up walls, let's open doors and ask God to give us a deeper understanding of how to display his heart for those.
Our country wouldn't be so divided.
Yeah.
We would just listen to others' point of view. We may
Yeah.
not come to agree with them at all, but if we realize, listen to what they say, be kind, be so divided.
Yeah.
But if they're different from me, so stay away from them.
Yeah. I agree. I also just have that, if you do that the first time, then if they want to talk about something else in the future, they may come back like, hey, this person made me feel loved, valued, respect. So, that's very true. I
There's
thought this,
almost always some point of unity that we can find with others, no
Mhm.
matter what the disagreement is. If you pare it down far enough, there's usually something that we can find to agree on.
yeah.
Just,
That's not
it's
much.
hard to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Last week we just looked at the quote where it was, I don't know if it's one, but where Paul was asking all these rhetorical questions. And if you're in Christ, there was all these questions that would obviously unify you. And I know there's in our community that may not be believers, but yeah, definitely just you can be like accepting without being accepted, I guess is how would
You
you word
wanna
that?
have a chance to,
Down the road to
Yeah.
talk about that
Yeah.
stuff, yeah,
That's just,
yeah,
that's happened in my own house once time. Our musician, he's different on the spectrum, and I remember one morning I woke up and I was there, made my coffee, and I put some up down, and this person walks from the back of my house, and I'm like, okay, you know, they were a color. I really couldn't tell if it was male or female. I thought, I said, come sit down and eat breakfast with us, and I'm thinking, I don't know about you, but just come on. And sweetest person. It was a female, I didn't really know, but you know, somebody that played in music with him. He'd been around her most of the time. She lived in Nashville, too far for her to drive. They played in Memphis. She dropped off, and they're still friends to this day. And she's a wonderful person, but you know, my first thought was, but I thought, oh well, you know, I've got to show him that I'm going to accept anybody. I don't care
yeah,
what color you are, what size you are, what you do. He's gonna love you and he's gonna help you.
yeah. I can so see you having that conversation too.
You know, it's just kind of like, it did kind of take me back a minute. And I thought, well, I got some muffins and some coffee. Come on.
There you go. I'll share with you. Look at being so hospitable. This is a really good question I thought that she brought up. She said, what is the biggest challenge you face in practicing hospitality? Or the main excuse you use to avoid it?
In your house.
Mhm.
I guess it depends on the definition of hospitality. Does that mean people coming to your house?
I think in this particular question she meant that, but in another one she says you don't have to have a house to do this. But I would say like inviting people into your home, like just this past winter, you know, with the ice storm, we all probably knew people who didn't have electricity or water, and inviting them into your home. I would consider that a good recent example of hospitality. So, yeah, what would if you knew someone like that and you could have offered your home to them, and let's say maybe you did or you didn't, what would have been the reason you did? I guess that was just the freshest example. But I did the house too messy. Or maybe your house is too clean and you don't want anyone to mess it up. I think some other ones are my house isn't big enough. I'm not a good cook. I'm too busy. Also, you know, there's mental health issues that play a role. You know, germophobics, people who are hoarders, you know, OCD behavior, stuff like that can be a very, and, you know, also just hospitality is not always convenient. You know, maybe if you have a, you know, friend that's in for the weekend, like, hey, can I come over and stay with you? And then you've got all these other plans, you know.
In times of crisis, it's a little bit easier to go, I don't care what the house looks like, you know, talking about,
Yeah,
we're talking about, surviving.
yeah,
You know, that's easier for me in a
Yeah.
time of crisis. When life's just going along, I have a really hard time because,
what if it was like a new neighbor that
Yeah.
moved in?
Yeah.
Like, what would be your holdup for inviting folks for a meal? Do you think?
Maybe not knowing them.
Yeah. I want to meet you out in public before I bring you into my home situation. Yeah, I just thought that was a good question for us to think about. She also said, what is one thing you could do this week to welcome someone with warmth and generosity? And this is the one she said, you don't need a house to do. Does anyone have anything that comes directly
Just
to
go have a cup of coffee with somebody somewhere, they,
Yeah,
you know, whatever.
Somebody's like a family person, right? Somebody new person.
Hmm.
Really, you know, stepping out and making sure, reach out and take it. Because
Yeah.
that's such a lonely thing. New person, whoever you may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't take credit for this, but I'm in the life group, we meet at Sunday. And I guess Terry does it, Terry Myers, he always
They are
invites,
very good about that.
he invites the people that are going to place membership or people that,
Yeah,
and we even, right, we even sit them in the middle and Terry makes a little sign with their name on it.
oh, that's so
And,
cool.
and somebody said something one day, I said, no, that's for our good. But, that's great, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, he's got guests coming. Say, I can't take credit for it, but I would think if I was a new member, that would make me feel loved.
Yeah, I remember when I was first coming to Campbell's Tree, I got invited to some different, over to some people's houses for life. And I was like, oh, really? Like it's like what y'all are saying, like, they didn't even know me. Mr. Gerald, it didn't have to be a special event. He would just say, like, why don't you come over and have lunch with us after church? That was just so sweet. And I did, and it was wonderful.
I'm meeting.
I do too.
I don't know when it does.
I'm thankful for the example that he left us. She says that if you are a parent or caretaker, how can you integrate faith and hospitality into your life to teach the importance of living as extensions of God's value insight in that one? I think one that comes to my mind too is just like money's real tight that month, and you're gonna prepare a meal for people anyway. And that's like faith and hospitality, or we're gonna give them, these are our coats that we just got for winter, but we're gonna give them to someone else who needs them. And I think that's ways that you can integrate. Like, I have faith the Lord's gonna provide for our family as we're providing for someone else's family and showing them generosity.
Like the Christmas stuff.
The Nicaragua stuff, or the Rafas, the wrapping Christmas, yes,
That one.
yeah, stuff like that. Lots of families and opportunities to help. She says there's a beautiful quote on page 121. I'm going to read it, but the end of it, I just love this. She says the essence of hospitality is a heart open to God, with room prepared for the guestness of the Holy Spirit, which welcomes the presence of Christ. This is what we share with those to whom we open our doors. We give them Him. And I just think that could be our motto, because that is just, I loved that. I just thought that was such a beautiful way. It's like we invite other people to our home. It's not about us. We're giving them Him. And I just love that. And, if you'll just remember that this also goes back to what we talked about last week, how marriage and parenting relationships in particularly are mirrors of our relationship with Jesus. And so, when you're inviting others into those, most intimate relationships, then they're going to see symbolism, and they may not recognize it as symbolism to our relationship with Jesus, but they're going to see, like, something's different about this family, and I want to be like this, or I want to be here more, or whatever. So it just opens the door for other opportunities. So she says to spend time in prayer asking God to reveal any insecurities, sins, or distractions that keep you from inviting others into your home and daily life. So I thought that was a really good way to put that we could all pray over and see what comes to your mind throughout the next week. And then she says to pray Matthew 5:14 through 16 over your home and day, which is about that you are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heaven. And that verse always makes me think of a lighthouse. But I think that is an important thing for us to pray. Just like, Lord, help me to be a light, to shine others to Christ. And then moving on to day 5, the final day of the session, she says her 5 takeaways, or day 5 takeaways, there's 4 of them. She says to embrace the journey, model humility, keep an open dialogue, and never stop praying. So some things I wrote down about this. She said that growth with the Lord is beautiful, but it can also be challenging. We all know that is true. And she says that the way of wisdom means continually asking God God for fresh guidance, being receptive to correction, heeding godly advice, adjusting opinions and expectations, and pursuing love above all else. And I like how she says that she tells her family, I love who you are and I love who you are becoming. And she said to handle stumbles with grace and truth, not shame, and to point those in your home to the goodness of God, to the goodness of what God has for you. And I also like how she says, hopefully your responses to tension, conflict, and disunity look different today to make it look more different years down. And I think we can all agree with that. No, I can. She talks about how there's a close connection between humility and wisdom. And it's almost read Proverbs 11:2.
Pride leads to disgrace, with humility comes with
Thank you. And she says that a humble spirit deepens relationships and stabilizes homes because it prioritizes patience and a willingness to see other things from another's perspective. And this is also, she's saying, sustaining an environment where everyone feels understood. And she says, if you feel like your relationships need improving, you need to take responsibility for your own part and say you're sorry. So she says, apologize sincerely. Here's another one, Proverbs 22:4, if someone wants to read that.
Humility and spirit of wealth and honor.
And then Proverbs 2:6.
For the Lord grants wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding.
Yes. She says to keep an open dialogue. And she says if you don't know how your actions affected someone, that you should ask. Don't stay stuck in brokenness. And also, never stop inviting the helper to guide relationships. That was on never stop thinking. So that was all I had for this week. One thing that I was going to ask too, in the loving correction thing that kind of goes, Cheryl, what you were saying about acceptance and not judgment, but you know how I've seen parents who now have like grown adult children, and so I can't answer this, so y'all have to talk. But if you have grown adult children who now, let's say they have accepted a worldview that's just totally different from what the Bible says, or you know the way they were taught growing up, and how you can handle that with love and like not bending on your faith, because I have seen some parents say like I've had to be flexible so my children will still accept me. So I'm just asking because I'm curious what, and maybe none of that applies to anything here, but do you understand what I'm asking? But I was just wondering what wisdom you have, because I know we all know.
I don't feel like that. Like, we don't have any children that are like have like left God or like that. But you only have so long to establish your relationships in your home, kids, and so we worked real hard on that. And so now, like when there are, because in any life things go awry sometimes, and there's been some of that of time. So a lot of I tend to avoid saying you need to do things this way or that way. It's like we point to, God's way of dealing with relationships and like point them toward, it's like they're not the focus. The focus is, what's God say we're supposed to do? What guidance does the Bible give us for this? And they are always very accepting of, any conversations we have like that. And it's probably from just the relationships that we have. But, I just try not to, like I say, nobody likes to feel wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just go about it in a way that's like, I'm not even looking at you. We're just going to talk about what you know, what's the ideal here? And also very much, you know, being willing to share our own failures.
Yeah.
And because that's really important,
I
you
do
know, I'm
think
not
that's
speaking at you, I'm not speaking at you from a position above you. I'm down here in the gutter with you, you know,
Mhm.
I've had my own issues. And, just through sharing, you know, your own personal struggle with one thing or another, a lot of times you can reach their heart. It is all about the
Connect
heart.
before you correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I know
all-
as adult children, you're not really in the authority to correct anymore, but
Yeah.
I still just kind of keeping an
Yeah.
open dialogue, sounds like,
Yes, for sure.
searching the scriptures.
And you don't just go giving it, wait till, and you know, just, it's a very delicate balance. Everybody laughing because they know, we all know it's true, it's a very delicate balance, you
Mhm.
know.
A lot of times you just wanna blurt out, you know, what you think, but sort of think before you say, cause they are adults,
Yeah.
they know what's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, they will, thank
They
you.
will.
Then we
In-law
You
children.
can't let them know anything, they can
Yes.
let you know.
Yes. It's different.
But it's wonderful.
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
not-
it is. I mean, there are times like, well, I've got 2 sons, so I have 2 daughters-in-law, and then I've got a daughter, so I get to be that side of it too. And it's very hard. I mean, it's just lots of things, but my daughter, sometimes I see her dealing with her mother-in-law in some ways that are not there. And so I'm hesitate to jump in there and say, now you don't need to, but I do sometimes go, oh, I don't know about that, Sarah, that thing. You might.
Mhm.
And just enough to make her go, wait a minute, you know, to stop and check herself. And, you know, you just want loving, always loving.
Yeah.
And, cause you are, it's like, you know, the phrases and things that and the verse that talks about God disciplines us because one of the purposes, because he wants us to have peace in our life.
Yeah.
I want her to have peace in her life.
Mm.
And so, you know, anyway, so you just, like the book says, keep your mouth shut and your door open. Or,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Until asked or until, you know, and there have been times that we've been asked, been times that one had come live with us, you know, again. And it's like, okay, my mouth's gonna be open now, my door's open now, my mouth's gonna be open. If you're gonna be eating my groceries, you know? But we have a great relationship, and it all works, so I don't know, you know.
Someone once told me, pray it, don't say it.
Oh, that's good
Ah.
advice, too. Yeah. I was just talking to one of my friends this week, and we were talking about how the young, like, 20-year-old, like that college age group, and right after that, kind of just don't see the value in church anymore, or reading the Bible. And it's terrifying, but it's like if you are in that, if you have one of those children, it's like, and they did, and I was like, what did you do? Yeah. Right? Because I know that you can, because I've seen this happen before. It's just like people can do all the right things, and then their children can still, you know, that's one of my fears. But I know it's like trust. This goes back to our trust the Lord quote from last week, but that just terrifies me to think that, like, if you could do everything that you know to do to teach them about Jesus. And I do like how the very first page of this whole session, that quote that said, what was it? It was like on page 101, I think, where it says, seeing Christ in a new way. Something about the very bottom of that paragraph right there, yeah.
I was just gonna say, sorry to go out here for my grandson, but I was gonna say, now you know how God feels. You know, he gave us everything that we need to know and love and follow Jesus, and sometimes don't always choose to do it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just one more way that parenthood has taught me a lot about God and his love for us and what we have been through and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I know
something you'll need
there's-
to remember too is like, you have to think that your faith journey is going to be different than your children. And so when children are walking their life faith, they might not walk through it the way you do.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that and you have to be okay with that.
Mhm.
Because they may make some mistakes, or I don't really call them mistakes, but this might be what they needed to do to learn. And that was their faith journey, to get them to a point where they needed to be.
It's where they get their testimony.
That's where,
Yeah.
and so you
Struggle.
kind of just
Oh,
have
yeah.
to
I know
sit
that.
back and,
Let them learn themselves.
yeah, I mean, it's hard, but that's what you have to do, and,
All the bumps in the road.
yeah, but you can't make your faith journey be dirt. You can't think that just because what they're doing isn't exactly what you've done, it's not the right way to go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
you really have to keep that in mind, because if they never develop their own faith, then I think those are the ones that have a tendency to just maybe drift off, because maybe they never had a true own faith. So whatever they have to do to get that faith, they have to do it.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's what I have seen. And I mean, I just have one that's 22, and you know, the other one's 19, the other one's 16. But yeah, I mean, she's living in the middle of New York, so she better have some type of faith.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah. Kind of
Because
goes
it's
back
not
to
the
like
show.
what Abby was saying last week about that couple that she knew. She said that they, growing up, it was like more of a checklist type religion, and now they don't go to church as much or ever. Or I think she said periods of seasons, but I know, like, even coming to Campbell Street, I've been here now, I think 11 years, and it's totally transformed. It's not the church I grew up in, and it has totally made me see Jesus in this way. So I've been very encouraged by all of y'all here, and I just am so grateful that Penelope is going to be able to be raised in a church like this, because it's not the one I grew up in, and so it's more about wanting to have a relationship with Jesus than having to have a relationship with Jesus. So that's one thing that I've learned being at Campbell Street. So, but I do thank y'all for your comments. And next week we're gonna watch the video, and then Amy will be taking back over. Thank y'all.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
I know. Less or more?
Hey, she's loving it. But it's theater, dance. She works. Okay, she teaches dance. Yeah, she is like that. She teaches dance. So she does teach us.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then she works at Campbell.
We always
And then she goes home.
Yeah, right there.
She's been
I almost found the screen. I couldn't see it. Yeah, I'm 30 minutes fixing her phone. I'm like,
right out of college, after she got done.
and so I'm like, I had to check my email for weeks. Did I miss something else, Mom?
That's where she went to take money. She's very because she saved up. And then found out. And now they're in an apartment with this injunction. But they live